Sometimes I make a pattern and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so silly. Is anybody gonna make this? But he's just so funny. I had to make it. Hello, I'm very excited to introduce a new pattern to you today for this cutie Nutcracker. I'm calling it a pillow pal. Do you guys remember these pillow pals from like the 90s? I had a very neon one. Actually, that might have been like a fanny pack. I just remember it had little legs, and the little legs did inspire these little legs. But anyway, it's like a pillow slash doll slash pillow pal. So I'm going to walk through a specific element of this project today. Something that is kind of skill building if you don't already know how to do it. But you can hop over and buy this complete pattern from my shop, and I will put the link to that in the very first part of the description below. And also in my shop, you will find all of my other Christmas patterns, like my newer elf doll pattern that I made for Christmas in July, and the little soft nativity set I'm about to show you because it's a similar technique to what we're doing today, and my stocking pattern that I agonized over the shape of, so enjoy it because the shape is perfect in my humble opinion. The little embroidered name tags for stockings, the gift bag pattern that I posted a few months ago. So yeah, all of those are in my shop. Now is a great time to get started on your Christmas sewing. But this is just for fun project. As you know, that Nutcracker is a big part of our family's life because my daughter is a ballet dancer. And I've been wanting to do this for a while. And then my other daughter, Layla, who works in estate sales, brought home this book. Okay, it's this book. This is obviously an older out of print book. Step-by-Step Doll Making by Barbara Marston. And on the cover was this little train engineer. And then this little, I can't remember what she called him in here. Yeah, I think it's just the train engineer. But this is when the light bulb went off and I was like, ding, this is how I can make a fun Nutcracker pillow. I've been wanting to make a Nutcracker pillow for a long time. So her dolls are kind of on the small side and they have like felt arms. And so I made quite a bit of adaptations to the concept. But I did want to mention that this was inspired by this Barbara Marston engineer doll. But today, we're going to focus on the machine applique part of this project. So you can see his face is appliqued on, and this is a special technique for machine applique. It's a raw edge applique technique. And so yeah, that's what we're going to do today, because there are some tips and tricks that can make it better and make it more long lasting and just look nicer. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so I have my pattern here and I have already cut out most of my pieces, my boots, my beard. This pattern uses a combination of felt and cottons. My little mustache, cute. Arms, eyebrows, all of this stuff. Okay, I'm gonna set that aside because I left out the pieces that need fusible web. So this is my main piece. I'm just gonna use the front for now. Love this fabric. Put my pattern piece aside. And this is my face. You can see I didn't even cut around it because you don't actually cut the piece out first when you're going to machine applique. Machine applique, this is called a satin stitch. So the edges are raw and you use this fusible product. Just stick it like a sticker and then you satin stitch around it so there's no raw edges showing. And it is nice and secure. This is not a technique I would use for something that is going to need to endure tons and tons of washes or last for years and years, like a quilt. I wouldn't do this method on a quilt, although some people do, but I prefer different methods for quilting. But this for crafts and things like this is absolutely perfect. It's the same that I did on the outside of this bag, the nativity bag. And on this one, I used a blanket stitch, which is so cute. Here's my little nativity. This is some of my best work, guys. Right? Mary and Joseph? You can go grab this pattern from my shop. It's definitely one that I am most proud of. Okay, so to applique this way, you need to get a product called Fusible Web. This is called Heat and Bond. You need to make sure it's the light and sewable kind, because for this one, I only had like a thicker one and it did gunk up my needle and make it kind of hard to get all the way around it without any skipped stitches. So the solution for that is to make sure you get a light sewable version of this product. Okay, I'll let that heat up while I get this out. What we're gonna do, just get a piece of this out and trace the face piece onto it with a pencil or pen or marker or whatever. I'm tracing it onto the smooth side. The other side of the fusible web is bumpy because that's the sticky side, and I'm going to iron onto the fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. I use paper scissors for this. And then I'm going to get my skin tone fabric. making this darker skin tone Santa. I'm going to cut off, not Santa, Nutcracker, cut off a piece of this. I don't like to waste fabric, so I cut it to size. I'm going to iron this first, and then scooch over. I'm going to iron this entire piece bumpy side down onto the back of my fabric. My fabric doesn't have a front or back, but if yours does, you'll want to pay attention to that. Iron it real good, and then let that cool for just a sec. You might need a lint roller. Okay, now I'm going to take my scissors. Don't really want to use my really nice scissors. Let's see if these will do it. I like to use a less good pair of scissors because this is paper. It might not matter, but I don't know. You know, we've been conditioned as sewists not to cut paper with our best scissors. And then I'm just gonna cut it out on my pencil lines. Okay, best part. If you fold that a tiny bit, then it starts to come off, and you can see how shiny this is now. It has been turned into an iron-on sticker. So this is gonna get pressed onto the front right here. Let's see how far down from the hat. Okay, I think 6 inches down from the top is where it needs to be. Okay, centered on, and I'm going to just press it into place. Oh wait, I just remembered I need to put my hair in there first. Okay, so what I like to do and what the pattern will denote is to put all of this on in layers before I start sewing any of it. So I'm going to also put the hat brim on, and I need to insert the hair into the sides of his face before I sew it down. So let me do the hat brim next. Iron my piece of fabric, find my hat brim pattern, and trace it onto my fusible web. It can get kind of cumbersome in this big chunk like this. Okay, in order to not waste fabric, because the fabric you have to cut off, if it has sticky stuff on it, you have to toss it. So try to cut it a little bit closer. Okay, and now I'm going to iron this onto the back of my hat brim fabric. Okay, while that cools, I'll cut out the teeth. All right, I like to use a subtle pattern for the teeth. Let's see if I have something. I do have this swirly white one. I'll use a piece of this. Okay, so once again, I will trace, and I'll iron this onto the back. Did I make it big enough? Oh, barely. You can cut it pretty close. You just don't want to cut it on the line because then your end product will be less nice and neat. But you also don't want any overhang of the sticky part because then you will stick it to your ironing board. Okay, this is nice and cool, so let me cut this out. Let me cut off the scraps I want to save. I love this fabric, so I want all of the scraps. Ooh, I can hear someone emptying the dishwasher, and it's not me. It's the best sound in the world. Okay, get it started. If you ever have trouble getting it started, it can help to make a little tear in it like that, and then it's easier to get off. That's really helpful, especially if you have tiny pieces and are having a hard time getting a grip. That can just sort of create a finger hold. Okay, so here's my hat brim. So my face is gonna go here. My hat brim is gonna go, where'd it go? Oh, here. I like to get everything in place before I fuse anything. I think that's correct. And then my teeth go here. Okay, well before I fuse that, I need to get my beard and hair pieces because they're gonna go underneath. So here's my little beard. Picked gray hair for this guy. That goes right there, centered. And here's my hair. It goes under here like this. Okay, looks kind of funny now, but you can see how with the stash and everything and eyeballs, he will look like he's supposed to look. So I'm gonna carefully move him over to here and press all the pieces down. I like to sort of press and hold. Okay, now it's time to take him over to the machine and go applique. So the secret to applique that will not unravel, that you won't be able to see any ravelly seams, is to make the stitch a close one. So that's why we call it a satin stitch, because It was originally made to patch holes and to applique. So the zigzags are just really close together. You don't want them too wide because then it can be hard to move around corners, but you want them close together. Having them close together is the important part. For the mouth, I did them a little bit farther apart in a contrasting thread, and because I thought it would look nice. So you can sort of make up your own mind on how exactly you want to do it. And then of course on this one, I made a blanket stitch, which sort of binds the raw edge and puts the horizontal stitches into the fabric and just looks cute. So you have choices. Your machine probably has several fancy stitches that you could use for this, so enjoy it and have fun. Let me take you over to the sewing machine. Okay, it's important to first use matching thread. I'm gonna do the black parts first, so I put black thread in my machine. The good news is, if you're having a lot of different colors, you don't always have to switch the bobbin. I'm just gonna keep the black bobbin in, even when I do the brown. If I were doing the teeth in white, I'd probably switch to a white bobbin, but I'm gonna do them in black, so I don't have to switch the bobbin, just the top thread. If your machine is working properly, the bobbin will not show. So I'm doing a tester right now just so I can get my length and width settings right. So I have it set on a zigzag, and right now I have a width of 0.4, and that seems pretty good, but I'm gonna make, I mean the length is 0.4. That seems good for the length, but I'm gonna make the width a little bit wider. It can help you navigate around the edges without missing any if it's a little bit wider. So see how that looks. Okay, so here's what I have now. And that, oh, like here's what I have now, and then I don't even show you. That is pretty good. I'm gonna make it a little bit closer together. Now I'm at 0.35, and that might be a tad too wide. So now I'm at a width of 3.7, a length of 0.35, and I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. So you want the zigzag, you want the outer zig to be on the very edge of your fabric and the bulk of the stitch going into the piece you're appliquing on. So if that is challenging for you, just try to be right in the middle. Put your line of fabric right in the middle and you should be okay. What you do not want to have happen is your stitch to be for both sides of your zigzag to be inside of the fabric you're appliquing on, because then you'll have a raw edge left uncovered by your satin stitch, and that will look messy over time. It's never going to fully unravel because you used the fusible web. So if you're wondering why do we use fusible web if we're just going to stitch it on, it just holds the fabric together. Otherwise the stitch is so close to the raw edge that it can pull apart or it can look scraggly, and also while you're stitching it on it will shift and move. So the sticker aspect of this works to keep your piece right where it's supposed to be, and it helps it never unravel over time. Okay, my hat brim is finished. See how nice that looks? My machine needle did not get gunky because I had the nice lightweight fusible web. If your needle does get gunky, like mine was when I made this guy, because I was using a heavier weight fusible web, then about every inch or so, I would just kind of get the gunk off. That's really all that you can do and hope for the best. Otherwise, this stuff worked great, so I highly recommend this product. I will link to it. It's called Heat and Bond Light Sewable. I got it at Hobby Lobby. Other uses for the applique is if ever you want to put an odd shape onto a piece of fabric. So especially in the quilting world, you might think you need to piece everything that needs to go onto your fabric. But with applique, you're kind of free from that. So say you're making a baby block and you want to put a heart on one side and a star on one side, an initial on one side, or if you want to make a banner like a happy birthday bunting and you want to applique the letters on, this is a good solution for not having to piece or quilt every single element. So I hope you have learned something today. I'm going to continue on and finish this pillow and for sure show you when he's done, and be sure and hop over and grab the pattern. And if you make one, please show it to me. You could tag me on Instagram or email me a picture and I would love to see it. I hope this pattern brings you joy because it does me and my family, and every time we look at him, we giggle. So he's gonna be sitting on our couch all Christmas season. So that's pretty fun. He's just so silly. Sometimes I make a pattern and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so silly. Is anybody gonna make this? But he's just so funny. I had to make it.